Good morning, Boker Tov. Welcome back to Parsha Perspectives for today. Great to be back together. A reminder, our summer schedule is a little bit erratic. We're on for the next few weeks, then we're off for a bunch of weeks. And if you want to stay up to date on when we have a new shir, a live shir, then join our WhatsApp group, rabbiefremgoldberg.org/WhatsApp. You can join each of the shir WhatsApp groups for bonus material, Parsha write-up, and to stay up to date on the schedule. I want to thank our generous sponsors for the year of the Parsha series, our dear friends Becky and Avi Katz and family, in memory of Becky's father, Lila Nishmas David ben Menachem Monosh, David Grossman, whose neshama should have an aliyah. We have the privilege this week of studying Parshas Korach, page 820 in the Art Scroll Stone Chumash. Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kas ben Levi, v'dasan va'aviram b'nei Aliyah v'om ben Pelez b'nei Reuven. Parshas Korach, of course, the whole first part of the Parsha, deals with the notorious story, the machlokas, the terrible discord, division, the dispute between Korach, his attack on Moshe and Aaron, and he sowed this division, which was so dangerous and destructive within Klal Yisrael. We wish we were learning a piece of history. We wish we were reading something that is only part of our past. But sadly, the pattern repeats itself. And the same type of behavior and reaction and antagonism and response to our differences is something that continues to plague our people. So the messages and the lessons of Parshas Korach remain very, very relevant and important for us today. So let's begin. Vayikach Korach. So Korach took, and in the past, you could listen to the previous years. I was looking at last year's shir. I think we spent the first 50 minutes of the hour on the opening pasuk. We're not going to do that today. We'll try not to do that today. But we have new insights into even that opening pasuk again. Vayikach. Korach, the son of Yitzhak, the son of Kas, the son of Levi. We stop short of associating him with Yaakov. We go up the chain, but we don't get all the way to Yaakov. We spare Yaakov from being identified with Korach and his plans. And Dasan va'aviram, the sons of Eliav, On ben Pelas, and the tribe of Reuven, were sort of innocent bystanders who got caught up and who got dragged into this horrific conflict. And they all came. 250 men stood before Moshe. These were people of distinction. They gathered against Moshe, and they said, What are you doing? Why are you in charge? Why are you in control? Who empowered you? We're all equally holy. The democratization of Judaism. We all have an equal vote. We're all equal. So why are you in charge? Who allocated you? Who delegated you? Who made you greater? Who made you better? Who made you more superior? We're all equal. And why do you exalt yourself? Why do you lift yourself up over everyone else? Why? Why are you in charge? It's a very attractive, very appealing argument. You understood why it attracted a following and it drew attention. But the whole story begins with Korach taking. Vayikach Korach, those two words. And normally we would not introduce a story of division and conflict with the word Vayikach, to take. What does it mean to take? What did he take? What did Korach take? It was an oral argument. He came and he articulated a position which challenged the authority and the establishment. What did he take? Vayikach, what did he take? And we've seen many, many opinions in the past. As I said, we spent a lot of time on it. We quoted a lot of different opinions. Korach was on the take. He took himself to one side of the machlokas. Many interpretations. Rashi says, Lakach es atzma letzad echad, lios nechlak mitoch ha'eda la'orer ala kahuna. We're supposed to be unified and united. We're supposed to be together. Vayikach, he took himself out of that unity. He took himself to one side of a dispute. He saw himself different and apart and opposed. And he saw himself really as an antagonist rather than a critical part of, rather than blending in with everyone around him. Kol Yisrael arevim ze lazeh. Jewish people are supposed to be guarantors one for the other. And the word guarantor, arev, is the same root of the word taroves. A taroves means a mixture. We're all mixed in. We're all blended together. We're all united. We're all one. Vayikach took himself out of that mixture. Took himself out of that blend. He took himself out of that unity. And Vayikach, he took himself to one side. So I want to start by looking at 4 insights of Rav Druck. In his new Sefer Lavos Eish, 4 insights of Rav Druck on this opening pasuk, and then I sort of promised Bli Neder to move on from there. So the parsha begins with the word Vayikach. And we know, the way that a topic is introduced, the way it begins, contains within it the essence of what it's really all about. For example, the Korach tells us in the very opening of the Torah. What's the first word of the whole Torah? Bereshis. That was not a trick question or a hard one. Bereshis. Bereshis bara Elokim. It's the name of the opening book. It's the name of the opening Parsha. It is the opening word of the whole Torah. And the Korach says that the word Bereshis, kolalas is kol Torah kula. The entire totality of Torah is subsumed, is included, all within that word, Bereshis, beginning, in the beginning. And the Korach says that's true for every topic, that's true for every Parsha, that the opening word, the way it's introduced, captures best, summarizes succinctly what it's really all about. So what this story and episode are all about, the story of Machlokes is the story of Vayikach, that Korach took. So we have to understand, it's worth diving into yet again and seeing other interpretations, what Vayikach means. Korach presents that what is his topic, what is his platform, what is his argument, is kahuna. Why are you designated as different? Why are you elevated? Why do you have stature, prominence, prestige? Why do you have a position of authority and leadership? Moshe, why are you the king? You're the leader. And your brother you assigned to be the priest. I'm part of the family. I'm a Levi. I'm part of the mishpacha. So what about me? What about me? And Korach presents as if he is righteous. It's a righteous ambition. I want to play the religious role. I want the religious part. The truth is, it doesn't seem so different than the argument that who made a few weeks ago? I was here for it. We still had Parsha class then. Aaron. After the Nesiim each bring their korban, the end of Parsha's Naso, Aaron says, not fair to me. I also want. I'm not a Nasi. I'm not the prince, the head of a tribe. But I also want the privilege of bringing that same sacrifice on opening day. Not fair to me. And what does God do? Does he make the ground swallow him up? No. What does Hashem do? He rewards him and awards him. In perpetuity, you and your children will light the menorah. And yours is greater than theirs. And we studied what that means. So how is Korach's argument not fair to me? I want a chance. I want an opportunity. I want the religious privilege of serving, of leading. How is it so different than Aaron? Says Rav Druck, the key is a person who's really motivated and driven for the right reasons says, I don't really care if it's about me. It's really all about you, Hashem. What is the end? What is the result? What is the goal? What is it that you want? How do we best serve you? How do we best meet the ends of being marbek kvod shamayim, of elevating and advancing the brand of Hashem? It doesn't matter who does it. Misha avas Hashem yokedes bolo osa cheshbonos. A person who's driven by a true yearning and longing and love of Hashem doesn't need to be in charge or control or have the microphone, doesn't need the keyboard or the aliyah or to be the chazan. Just want a nice davening. I want laning to go smoothly. I just want the shul, the school, the community to function seamlessly. Losa cheshbonos, lamachnes es atzma b'tmuna. I don't need the mic. I don't need the spotlight. I don't need the stage. Ki chefzo sherotzon Hashem miskayim ba'olam. Is this serving Hashem? Is this advancing Hashem's vision and will for this world? It's all about Him, not about me. And if the answer is yes, then it doesn't matter if it's me or it's someone else, because I'm focused on the goal. I'm driven by the mission, not by selfish ambition. Everyone has to know what's my role, what's my job, what's my mission, what's my purpose. And if we win, that's all that matters. And winning in Klal Yisrael is to better mold and shape and advance the world in the image of Hashem. And this was Zehaya Ta'uso Shel Korach. This was the fatal error. So it's true that Kinaso from Tarba Chachma, He חישב שתפקידו, הוא לא יכול לעולם להשיג קרבת אלוקים רוחנית כמו זו של אהרון, שיסמנה לכהן גדול שנכנס נפלאי ונפנים. It's true that he was driven, but the problem was he wasn't driven within his own role. He didn't see someone and say, just like that person is the best at what they're at, I want to be the best at what I'm at. Just like they're achieving and accomplishing, just like they're close to Hashem, just like they're fulfilling their purpose, I want to fulfill mine. Instead, he said, I want to be him. I should have it instead of him. That's not healthy competitiveness that is happy for you but also serves to motivate me. That's not a healthy competitiveness. That is a destructive envy. When a person fulfills their mission, when a person is shalim, is whole and complete in what they're supposed to do, they are no less significant than the other. So one person has the spotlight and the stage and prestige and prominence, and the other seems invisible. Others don't know what they're doing. It seems so much less significant or important. But each one is doing what they're supposed to do. They are equal. They're equal. It's not about, we don't measure meaning by a following or by influence. That's a modern invention that's led to so much mental illness. It's led to so much depression and sadness. That's led to so much numbing people from their own self-imposed pain. Because we live in a world that is trying to tell us that how do you assign value? Who has the greater value? Whoever has the greater prominence. Whoever has the greatest prestige, whoever has the greater power, whoever has the more influencers. It's a whole industry, it's a career, never was before, to be an influencer. Who has more followers and friends, who's gone more viral, that person has the most meaning. And it's not true. It's the farthest thing from the truth. If a person is makiris makomo, if a person knows what's my mission, what's my place, what's my role, then they are as invaluable, their contribution is as important as everyone else. I could give you sports metaphors. I don't want to lose a percentage of you. I won't say which percentage. But in sports, there's the star on the team, but they'll never win a championship until they have their role player. And the role player may not make the cover of the magazine and may not win the MVP at the championship, but that star won't have the rings on their finger without their role player, without the first man off the bench, without their role player, and so on. Who's greater? Who's more important? It's hard to say. If you measure only by who's on the cover of the magazine or who lands the bigger contract or who has more followers, who has the bigger sneaker deal, then you know it's the star. But if you talk about what it took to win that championship, to meet that goal, then what's to say? What's to say the role player is not as important or more important? And that, says Rav Druck, is what these opening words mean. He wasn't driven and motivated to be the best version of himself. He wasn't motivated and driven to figure out his place, his mission, his purpose, and to achieve it with the greatest drive. He said it should all be me and not someone else. Me to the exclusion instead of another. Vayikach, he took himself as opposed to the other. And that was the fatal flaw. That was the downfall. Our attitude should be that the will of Hashem is fulfilled. It doesn't matter who did it. And that's what these opening words, Vayikach Korach, are really all about. That is number one. He took himself, and he took himself to the exclusion of others, and that was the fatal mistake. Number one. Number two, Vayikach Korach. The pasuk b'Tehillim, the pasuk says, "Vayikanu Moshe b'machem la'Aaron kadosh Hashem, tiftach eretz v'tiv ladasam v'techas ladas aviram." David HaMelech in Tehillim recounts, he reviews Jewish history, including this sad and tragic episode with Korach, and he tells us what happened. And Rav Chaim Kanievsky, Rav Druck's Rebbe, he interprets, "Kenu darkam shekol balei hamachlokas," because the pasuk David HaMelech, when he recounts the story, he says, "Vayikanu Moshe," that Korach was jealous of Moshe and of Aaron, and the ground swallowed up Dasan, Aviram, and Korach and the followers. And that's the path of those who are balei machlokas. Lachlok tamid al gedolam ha'tzadikim. Who do they go after? The greater the people, the more righteous the people. Ve'eza derech shati an hagasa shatzadik yimatzu tamid kublanus li'neidu megaros b'halichosav. And what's the argument? You can't win. The righteous leader, the bold leader, the courageous leader can't win. Why? Because the Baal Machlokas, the person who's looking to be an adversary, the person who's jealous or envious or wants the leadership for themselves, they're going to come after him. In Parsha, if that leader is entirely diligent in studying Torah all day and night and is living somewhat transcendent over this world, how is he a leader? He doesn't know this world. He's not living in the here and now. He's not the everyman. So if he goes out and he mingles and he's part of this world, should be sitting and learning. What kind of a leader is this? Should be sitting and studying diligently full time. You can't win. You can't win. They'll always come after the leader. They were jealous of Moshe b'machana in the camp, said David HaMelech in Tehillim Kuvav. Moshe shayolom etam Torah ba'ol shemichutz l'machana matzu b'balei machlok chisarn al she'enu nimtza b'soch ha'machana. When Moshe would go out to study without distraction, to be able to have some privacy, to be able to achieve some focus, so they would say, "Where is he? Why isn't he with us? Why isn't he in the machana?" And they didn't understand. He doesn't understand this world. Ula Aaron kadosh Hashem, Aaron, who's mixed with us. Their argument on Aaron is, why isn't he Kadosh Hashem? Why is he mixed with us? Why is he hanging out with us? Shouldn't he be somewhere studying and growing and elevating? So you can't win. You can't win. The way David HaMelech captures this story is a reflection. You know, if everybody loves you, if no one's coming after you, you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. It's easy to be loved by everybody, just don't stand for anything. If you don't stand for anything and you don't lead anything, you don't take a courageous position on anything, you're not trying to transform anything or impact anything, it's easy to be loved by all. But if they're going after you, first of all, consider maybe the criticism as merit, but also know that Moshe and Aaron were the saviors of Klal Yisrael. Jewish people were suffering oppression, persecution, murder, genocide in Egypt. Moshe and Aaron came along and liberated them. You would think they have career contracts. Nope. They only got most of the vote. Mordechai saves the Jews of Shushan. And what does the Megillah tell us at the end? Mordechai is ratzoi l'rov echav. They have a vote. Should Mordechai still be the chief rabbi of Shushan? He got a majority. 51%. 51%? He saved the Jews of Shushan from being obliterated, from being exterminated. Yeah, rov echad. He got a majority. Got a majority. You stand for something, to go after you, and in either direction, whatever you do. So stay true to Hashem, to your Rebbeim, to your family, and to yourself, and don't get distracted. They're going to come after you. Number 3, Rav Druck. Here's a big question. Gemara in Yuma tells us, so the Gemara says, we know that throughout the desert, the man, the heavenly man that descended, that nourished the people, they couldn't grow, they didn't have gardens, they didn't plant fields and orchards, and they didn't shecht the animals. What'd they eat? The man fell. The Gemara tells us, learns from Sukkim, Yuma Ayin Hey, that if you were a tzaddik, the more righteous, they had the food delivered to the front door. I don't know what it's called, Amazon delivery, Walmart delivery, what are all these things now? We went away with my kids after Pesach for a few days. And they needed all kinds of things for their kids that we hadn't brought. They said, we'll just go on Walmart to deliver. I said, by the time it comes, we'll be gone. They said, just watch. Within an hour, there's a knock on the door. The groceries are at the front door. It's unbelievable how lazy you could be today. Unbelievable. So you're a tzaddik. You used to be, you had to earn it. A tzaddik. If you were a tzaddik, Walmart delivered within the hour to the front door. The man, you open the door, in your robe, in your slippers, the man was there at the front door. Beinonim, yatsu v'laktu. If you're mediocre, average, then you got to get dressed. You got to go out to the sidewalk, and you got to go get the man. Rishaim, shatu v'laktu. Rishaim was real work. So how the man arrived itself essentially testified to who you were, what level you were living, which begs the question. Where is the Pasuk achar ne'amar shalachti os aman mashmaya michutz lamachana. A third pasuk. So the Gemara answers depends what level you're on. Good. So here's the question. Kevin shetzadik may mekabas aman at Pesach Beisam harshama yitzrichum l'troach leilach l'lakir es aman mimakom rachok hayavshel levdok baboker heichan yorad aman etzel Moshe Rabbeinu. You're suspicious of Moshe and Aaron. Are they self-centered egomaniacs? Are they taking the leadership for themselves when there's no merit, they're undeserving? Or are they righteous? Did Hashem appoint them and they belong? So all you have to do, if you're suspicious of them, what do you have to do? Hide in the bushes early in the morning and go look and see what? Where the man fell. If it's at the front door, tzaddik, good to go. Out on the edge of the driveway, Benoni. Real work, Russia. If you want to know who your neighbor is, just see where the man was delivered. You know everything about him. So how could Korach, Dasan, and Aviram and 250 men, how could they come and rebel and challenge Moshe and Aaron? You could see where the man was delivered that they're righteous. It's a gewaltige akasha. It's a great question. So it says Rav Druck. Yeshe Parsha Shabali Machlokas Hayo Omrim Shasi Balakach Shaman Yored Rachak Matayim Kiem Lo Osim Es Avodasam Maspik Valeim Les Chazek B'Ze Yoser Vaken Adarabba Lozu Bevachal Yiten Lochich Marishasam Ekvus Mofazeh Elo Odis Batzer Ba'am Dasam Vosiv Arshia Dafkam Nekhein Lamedcha Gezos Amatias Yachol Gach Lefarsh Kvi Akmimus Daito. The truth is, everybody could reinterpret it for themselves. My man, it fell far away, not because I'm really not a tzaddik, but it's trying to motivate me to do even more. I'm a big tzaddik, but I'm a humble tzaddik. They should know, so it falls a little bit far away. So don't derive or don't conclude that I'm not a tzaddik. I am a tzaddik, but I'm the most humble tzaddik. So I asked, please leave it at the end of the driveway, Hashem, so nobody knows I'm a tzaddik. Everybody could reinterpret and distort where it falls to be able to reinforce their preconceived notion of themselves, which is what we do all the time. We interpret the events of our lives to simply confirm the bias that we have for ourselves. And if you could do it on a daily basis in every interaction and relationship, you could do it about where the man failed to. Number one. Number two, the Shevet HaMusar answers. And this is the answer I really wanted to communicate. We spoke about it last year or 2 years ago. Maybe you've included in the write-up from a previous year. You know why they couldn't know the righteousness of Moshe and Aaron by where the man fell? You know why? Because the man didn't fall. Why didn't the man fall? Because when there's machlokes, there's no man. The Shla quotes Chazal, machlokes achas docha mea parnasos. The Shla in Yuma writes, one machlokes pushes away 100 different parnasas. So everybody's running to figure out a school for parnasa. Say Pitamak Torah from a klaf at the end of davening. Go meet this tzaddik. Go daven at that kever. Go fly to that anti-Semitic country. Go to visit who's buried there. Go. Everyone's looking for the shortcut and the skula and the superstition and what they need to do in order to earn the most parnasa. You know what the biggest skula for parnasa is, says the Shla? Don't be involved in conflict. No machlokas. At all costs. Even with him, even with her, even with her, even with her. Let it go. Let it go. Be a vatran. Just let it go. Be flexible. Let it go. Don't get riddled in machlokas. Don't get caught up. Did you hear? Do you know? Are you aware? Don't get caught up. This neighborhood, these people, that group, this breakaway, this news, that. None of my business. I'm not involved. I don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. You know why? I got bills to pay. I got tuition to cover. I've got parnasa to earn. And the biggest skula for parnasa, says the Shla, is not being involved in machlokas and conflict. The man fell even when the Meraglim came back. Meraglim came back and gave a negative report that the Jewish people wandered for 40 years. The man still fell. But machlokas broke out. No man. You're on your own. Shem says, give me back the credit card. I'm cutting you off. If your children are killing each other, if your children aren't talking to each other, if your children can't be in a room together, you're still going to give them each an endless credit card? Go, spend, enjoy, cover, do. I'm not supporting you to not be talking to each other. If you don't have harmony between you, the credit card's off. Cutting you off. Hashem says, I'm cutting you off. So that's why you couldn't ascertain Korach and Dasan Va'aviram, the 250 men, they felt, they didn't know, based on the man, how great Moshe and Aaron were because the mun didn't fall. Why didn't the mun fall? Because of them. Because when there's machlokas, there is no mun. We all desperately want parnasa. The biggest school is not to mumble this or go there or do that. The biggest skula, the biggest thing we can do to earn parnasa, do not get involved in machlokas. There are so many forces. I just came back from Israel yesterday. Still so much good and wonderful and optimism and hope and positive energy. But there's so many forces trying to break it and destroy it and undermine it, and trying to bring us back where we were and worse. We cannot give in and indulge. Do we have differences? Yeah. Important ones, strongly felt ones. But we have to still stay together nonetheless. Communicate them, argue respectfully, disagree agreeably, and be united and one no matter what within family, within community, within Klal Yisrael. We desperately need bracha. We need bracha. We need Hashem to shower love on us. And we have to maintain that harmony against all these forces and efforts and energies that are trying to undermine it. We must. It's so challenging. Last one. Last Rav Druck, and then I told you we'd move on. The Mishnah in Maseches Avos says, Perkei Mishnah Yud Zayin, Kol machlokas shi l'shem shamayim, sofa l'eskayim, she'ein l'shem shamayim, ein sofa l'eskayim. There are two types of disputes. There's a dispute l'shem shamayim. You go to the Beis Medrash, any hour of the day, you'll see people killing each other, arguing, debating, screaming, yelling, maybe even name-calling. So that's a machlokas the Mishnah characterizes as a l'shem shamayim, trying to derive and get to the truth of Hashem. So that's sofa l'skayim, that will ever last. But there are other machlokas that's not l'shem shamayim. It's not driven and motivated by pure intention, selfish, narcissistic, ego, ulterior motive. That's not sofa l'skayim. The Mishnah says, what's an example? What's a model of a machlokas l'shem shamayim? Hillel and Shammai. What's a machlokas not l'shem shamayim? Korach. What would you expect it to say? And Moshe. It's not what the Mishnah says. Korach v'chol hadasa. And we won't get into that. We've spoken about it in the past. Because why doesn't it say Korach and Moshe? It's a powerful lesson there. It takes two to tango. You can't have a fight if there's no other side. Moshe refused to indulge, refused to get involved, to be dragged in. So the fight was Korach and his Eidah against nobody. He refused. So Korach v'chol hadasa, not Korach and Moshe. It takes two to fight. If you don't fight, there's no fight, there's no conflict. It just passes. So the person texted or emailed or hung the poster, the Pashkavilya, the person. Last year, Parsha class, we told the story, the Baba of Rebbe of Shlomo Halberstam. An incredible story. Go back and listen. That story is worth it. Of being a vatron, of letting it go, of not holding on, of being able to move on. It takes two. It takes two. That's the example. The question is not on that side this year. The question this year is on the other side. What was the example of a machlokas that endures? A machlokas that's everlasting. That's sofa l'skayim. Is the machlokas, the debate between whom? Hillel and Shammai. So the Sefer Malacha Shlomo wonders, I don't understand, he quotes the Chen Tov. How could we say the example of the Shem Shamayim is Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is sofa l'skayim, but it's not true? How do we paskin? Beis Hillel. So it's not sofa l'skayim. There's a debate, Hillel and Shammai. We follow the opinion of Hillel. Shine. We concluded, we move on. So Shammai's opinion is not sofa l'skayim. L'maisa, in both cases, the machlokas is not sofa l'skayim. So Malacha Shlomo explains, no. Sofa l'skayim means ad hayom yoshvim v'lomdim eshitas Beis Shammai. Means you sit in the Beis Medrash until today, and you don't just learn. Shas, the process of learning Torah, is not just skipping to the bottom line. Anyone who's opened one page of Gemara knows, let's just go to the bottom line. Why do I have to read the whole debate, the whole argument, the whole fight, the whole back and forth? What's the bottom line? Just give me the bottom line. We're a bottom line generation. Skip to the conclusion. Skip to the bottom line. But we don't grow. We don't learn to analyze and question and think. We don't expand our mind and our horizon when we skip to the bottom line. So we study the opinion of Beis Shammai too. And sofa l'skayim is not referring to who we paskin like. Sofa l'skayim means it endures, means it has value. It is value. Let's say all you're learning is the opinion of Beis Shammai. Do you make a birchas haTorah? Do you have to recite the bracha on learning Torah before you learn the opinion of Beis Shammai? Not Beis Hillel. You just learn that day the opinion of Beis Shammai. Why does Shammai say what he does? How did he come to it? What's his argument? What's his analysis? What's his reason? What's the opinion of Shammai? Would you make a birchas haTorah? Absolutely, of course, it's Torah. Could you study it in a bathroom? Chas v'shalom. God forbid, of course not. Is it bittul Torah? Are you wasting your time by studying the opinion of Beis Shammai? Absolutely not. Sofa l'skaya means we may not follow it. First of all, lost lava, we're told Mashiach comes, we'll follow the opinions of Shammai, not Hillel. So certainly it has value. We have to learn it and study it. But even until then, you can understand Hillel better if you understand Shammai. If all you know is the bottom line, but you don't know how you got there, you don't even know the bottom line. If you know what were the arguments in both directions, which is more compelling, how do you respond? Oh, that was brought up, that question, but this is how you answered it? Now you know the bottom line. If you just skip to the bottom line, but you don't know how you got there, the development, if you don't know the thinking, if you don't know the argument, counter-argument, if you don't know the debate, then you don't even know the bottom line. So Shammai is value. That's what it means, Sofa l'skayim, in this machlokas. Okay, that is the opening pasuk. Now we're going to skip all the way to pasuk Gimel. Vayikalu Moshe v'Aaron v'yomer aleim rav lachem ki chol ha'ida kol kedashim v'sachem Hashem u'madua tisnasu al Hashem. They gather against Moshe and Aaron. They say it's too much for you. Rav lachem. The simple understanding is rav lachem, too much for you. Too much. We're 2 to 3 million people. We're a huge. There's an awesome responsibility. It's rav lachem. It's too much for you. We're all equally holy. Divide and conquer. Democratize our people. Who put you in charge? Madua tisnasu. We studied in the past that rav lachem means you're too much of a rav. Don't be such a rav. Don't be such a rabbi. Don't impose. You're imposing authority. You can't impose authority. You have to earn respect. Don't demand it and impose it. Rav lachem. Don't be such a rav. Don't be such an authority figure. You're pushing away. You're turning off. But the Heilige Rachmastrisker, the Amaras Tahoros, interprets Rav lachem b'nei Levi, and then it continues. Hamaat mikem ki yivdil lokei. Hamaat mikem. They continue in their argument. Pasuk Tes. Hamaat mikem ki yivdil. Moshe turns to Korach, and what is his answer? What's his response? Shimona b'nei Levi. Listen, you fellow cousins, fellow Leviim. Is it not enough for you that Hashem has segregated you from the assembly to draw you near to Himself? Not enough that you're a Levi? I understand if you were some Oisvarf reject Yisrael. I'm a Yisrael, so I could say that. I understand if you're some reject Oisvarf Yisrael, that you're here complaining and kvetching. It's not fair to me. Why aren't I elevated? But it's not enough for you that you're a Levi? Being a Levi, you're already separate and different and apart. Not enough for you to stand before the assembly to minister to them? That's not enough for you? That's not enough for you? So the Rachmastrisker quotes, he says the following. We need humble leadership, modest leadership. Person should be humble and modest. I'm serving a greater mission and a purpose. It's not about me. It's about the mission. It's about the goal. It's about Hashem. That's what this is all about. And if you could do a better job, or you're chosen, or it's your chance, or your opportunity, go for it as long as the goal is achieved. It doesn't have to be me. Humble leadership. And so to teach us, why was the Torah given on Har Sinai? Har Sinai was the lowest, the most humble, the most modest of all the mountains. Moshe kibal Torah, not bis Sinai. Moshe didn't receive the Torah at Sinai. He got the Torah from Sinai. Just like Sinai was humble and modest, Moshe learned that the prerequisite to receive Torah is to be humble and modest. You want greatness because you want to be great? That's not a reason to be great. It actually captures exactly the tragedy of this new world we live in. You ask a young person, what do you want to do? I want to be an influencer. Ooh, admirable. What do you want to influence? I don't know. I just want to be an influencer where they send me free stuff and I have a huge following and a big fan base and I'm a celebrity and I'm famous and everybody's following me. That's not the Torah view. We don't want to be influencers. We want to have influence. And the people who had the most influence in our history shied away from being influencers. I wrote an article about it once. The great Rav Moshe Feinstein, the halachic authority of American Jewry of the 20th century, never applied for that position of being the Gadol Ador, the Posek Ador. He wanted, he didn't apply for it, he didn't accept it. New York Times interview with him once, he said, I don't know, people ask me questions and I guess they like the way that I answer, so they started asking me more. He became an enormous influence. Chaim Kanievsky, from his modest, humble apartment in Bnei Brak, had enormous influence, held up the world. They're the greatest influence. Rav Soloveitchik, the thousands of musmachim and talmidim, and the sense of movement that he led, the greatest influence, never wanted to be an influencer. Influencers want to be influencers as an ends, not a means. We want influence as a means to accomplish a noble and righteous and godly ends. So that's what Moshe Rabbeinu is communicating to Korach. You just want to be an influencer? You want to get the free stuff in the mail? You want to be able to have followers and fame and be a celebrity? That's not what we're about. We're about what influence do you want to have? What do you want to change? What problem do you want to solve? What do you want to fix or repair? How do you want to redeem the world? What do you want to influence? You want to be an asken? What asek? What problem do you want to solve? You want to make sure that everybody looking to get married finds their shidduch. Everyone who wants a child can tap into insurance and government funds to afford fertility treatments. You want to solve the tuition issue or security of Jewish community or advocate for Israel. What anti-Semitism? You want to stop? What do you want to fight? What do you want to do? It's not I want to be an influencer. It's I want to influence this problem or this issue. It's all backwards. Korach was the first who wanted to be an influencer rather than choose what to influence. And that's what Moshe is answering about Gedula, about greatness. Ikar kolu anava. Aaron, my brother, he's all about the people. Humble, humility. He walks with the people. He doesn't separate himself out. He doesn't want to stand out. He doesn't want an entourage. He sees himself as simple. And that's what he says. Rav lachem b'nei Levi, klomar adayin atem b'nei atzmachem, b'bechinas Rav v'yeshus hagedola. Rav lachem. Is it not enough for you? But what he was really saying, says the Rachmastrisker, is Rav lachem. For you, you just want to be an influencer. Rav. You just want to be an influencer. And that's a mistake. V'chein oros hama'at mikem. Don't be a Rav lachem. Don't be an influencer. Hama'at mikem. Be humble and modest and choose what problem you want to solve. And that's how to have the influence. In the Sifsei Tzadikim, we're saying Tehillim now. Our Tehillim should be answered. We should hear Besoros Tovos. But we're saying Tehillim, very popularly we say Tehillim Kuf Chaf Aleph, 121. I put my eyes up to the mountains. Where will my help come from? My help comes from Hashem. Medrash, by the way, says, I put my eyes to the mountains. Al Tikri, don't read it Haharim, the mountains, read it Hahorim, parents and grandparents, previous generations. I put my eyes to where I come from. But says the Holy Sifsei Tzadikim, you know where? When I put my eyes to the mountains, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. You know where my help comes from? A sense of ayin ve'efes. When I'm humble and when I'm modest, that's where it'll come from. When it's Rav Lachem, I want to be prime minister. I want to control the coalition. I want to be in charge. I want to have the power. I want to be the influencer. Now there's trouble. Corruption, failed leadership. Now we got problems. Where will our salvation come from? Me'ayin Yavo Ezri? Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. When a sense of ayin, aleph, ayin, nothingness, humility, modesty, from an attitude of ayin, that's Yavo Ezri. That's where our help and that's where our salvation will come from. Perek Tazayim, Pasuk Gimel, back to Gimel. Vayikalu. So when I was just in Israel, I got a new copy, hot off the press, a little pocket, Minchas Asher, Rav Asher Weiss. Why is a new pocket? Just convenient. Rav Asher Weiss is now producing pocket versions of his Minchas Asher? No. This is produced, my dear friend, Rabbi David Gottlieb, who is the leader of Tzalash. Tzalash is an amazing organization called Tzva L'Shem Shamayim. It helps soldiers long before this war. It's existed for 10 years. It helps soldiers in the field grow in their Yira Shamayim, continue to learn. Going into the army, serving in the IDF, Doesn't mean forfeiting or compromising or giving up on your religious growth. It's a place where you can advance in it. Last week, Daf Yomi finished Masechet Bab Metzia. Maybe you saw the videos in Gaza. Incredible soldiers singing and dancing and making a siyum on Bab Metzia. Extraordinary. So soldiers in the field requested, we're sitting in tanks. We want in our vest in Rafah, my nephew among them. We want to learn. We love Rav Asher. We love Rav Asher Weiss. Can't bring the big, thick, clunky Minchas Asher. So they produce thousands of copies. And they keep putting them out. This is Bamidbar. This is the Bamidbar version with Rav Asher Weiss's. And this was done tragically, sadly, in memory of Eli Moshe Zimbalist Hashem Yikom Damo, who was murdered, who was killed in Gaza 2 weeks ago. In fact, tomorrow night's Behind the Bima. I sat and interviewed his parents while I was in Israel. I grew up with his mother in Teaneck, Sarah Clavin, Zimbalist, and his father, Simi, is a sort of mishpacha. Brother's married to a cousin of Yocheved. So listen to his parents. A few days after getting up from Shiva, talk about his loss, his murder. And do they regret making Aliyah with the price that they've paid for bringing their family to Israel? You have to listen to that tomorrow night. So that's dedicated in his memory, who lived as he died, Al Kiddush Hashem, this version. So Rav Asher Weiss, in his Minchas Asher, in the little pocket edition, that soldiers are learning with the heat and the mosquitoes, not to mention the bullets and the rockets in Gaza. And we are sitting here in the comfort of our air condition and our comfortable chairs. So Rav Asher says the following: Vayikalu al Moshe, they gather on Moshe and Aaron, Rav Lachem. The Baal Chidush Arim, Alatei Magdol b'Pasuk Zeh. Halo shtus gemura litpal al Moshe Rabbeinu ashmas nasus kasher Kadosh Baruch Hu meid alav v'yish Moshe anav ma'od. He says, 1 second, stop, take a step back. This whole episode is absurd. It's absurd. We read it, and maybe we even relate, or depending on our childhood or our position in the community or what we think of the rabbi or the president, the shul, the school, or whatever. Maybe we even feel a shtick of Korach ourselves because it's appealing. The democratization of the community of Yiddishkeit. We're all equal. Everyone should have a chance and a say and authority. Who are you? Who put you in charge? Why do you yield and wield such power? It's attractive, right? It's absurd. Who testified that Moshe is categorically different than any other human being, the most humble of all men? Who appointed, who recruited, who designated, who elevated, who endorsed? Hashem. So it's absurd on its face that Korach, Dasan Aviram, 250 men, Hashem himself says, Ish Moshe anav ma'od mikol adam, sh'al pnei adama. Chazal said, Godol ma'shenemar b'Moshe v'nachnu ma, ma'shenemar ba'Avram v'nachnu afar v'efer. Ish Moshe anav ma'od mikol adam. Adam is Rosh Tevas, Avram, David, Moshe. Moshe ha'anav ha'gadol mishloshes avos ha'olam. Moshe is great. Korach shepikeach haya. Chazal go out of the way to tell us Korach was not a fool. He wasn't ignorant. Korach wasn't stupid. Korach was a pikeach. He was a brilliant, charismatic leader. So brilliant and so smart, so charismatic and insightful. How did he fail on its face on something so obvious that Moshe carries the endorsement of Hashem? What are you doing challenging him? Makes no sense. Says Rav Asher Weiss, an amazing human insight. When a person gets drawn into machlokas, when they are emotionally invested in this dispute, in this conflict, they shut off their intellect. They stop thinking rationally, and they start acting in a self-destructive, foolish fashion. When people are in machlokas, they do stupid things. You say to them, don't you understand the position you're taking that you're doubling down on? You're going to lose so much money. You're going to lose your reputation. You're going to lose your family. You're going to lose your... Doesn't matter. They can't hear you. Because instead of taking that step back and looking and analyzing and thinking, does this make sense? Is this right? Will it be effective? Is it worth? Sometimes, just like in investing, you have to cut your losses. So you thought this was a worthy conflict, a worthy position to take. You thought this was worthy pushback. But where's it going? And how's it going to result? And what will you look like when it's over? Just stop and walk away. Be the bigger person. But people can't. And then Rav Asher quotes a Medrash Yalkut Shimoni that gives this example and talks about just how much, look what Korach brought up, the ground swallowed his family. Look what happened as a result. And it didn't have to happen. Could have all been avoided. We've seen it. We've seen businesses that fail miserably because people can't get along. Partners, family members, bosses and employees, they had everything. They were on track on the trajectory for everything. But the ego got in the way, and the machlokas got in the way. Families who aren't talking. There's some great families, very notable families, prominent families. Just that Shiva. Can only pay a Shiva call to this brother, but not that brother. Can't be in the room at the same time. Can't sit Shiva together. How horrific and how tragic that machlokas. You'd think the loss of life can't help people realize it's worth figuring things out. Just figure it out. Be capable of overlapping in the same room, sit together. If honoring a loved one is not enough, if confronting our mortality can't motivate shalom, harmony, peace, putting it back together, what will? So tragic and so sad. But Elamai, what happens? That's the power of machlokas. The power of machlokas is so strong, people stop thinking straight. And they bring about their own ends. Perek Tazayim Pasuk Hey. Pasuk Hey. And part of Moshe's reaction, he says, "Vaydaber Korach v'chol adasol lemor boker v'yoda Hashem es asher lov es hakadosh v'ikri ve'lov." You know what? In the morning, Hashem will make known the one who He chooses. Es hakadosh v'ikri ve'lov es asher yivchar bo yakri ve'lov. Boker. Let's wait till the morning. Hashem will resolve this in the morning. He'll resolve this in the morning. The Rachmastrisker on this word boker says something wonderful. Quotes the Agra Dekala. They said, we deserve to be the priests. They thought they were motivated and driven by a righteous and pure motive. So they said to Moshe, Moshe says to them, let's see in the morning. Why? Let's see if when you wake up you have the same Yirah Shamayim that you claim to have now. Boker, v'yoda Hashem es asher lo, ki misha marges Yirah Shamayim bekuma baboker, hinehu shayach l'Hashem yisbarach. Do you wake up with Yirah Shamayim? Meaning, do you wake up or hit snooze? Do you stay in bed or do you make it to minyan? Are you on time or are you late? Are you fulfilling the opening of Shulchan Aruch Yiskaber Ka'ari Lamod Laboker? Do you wake up in the morning and roar like a lion to greet the day? Are you early or late? What does your morning look like? Yirah Shamayim? You could see and measure a lot of a person's Yirah Shamayim by the way they rise, by the way they wake, by the way they start their day. So Moshe says, let's see. You have such a pure motive. Yisol Hashem Shamayim. Boker. Let's see in the morning. Let's see, do you make it to the Kol HaBoker at 6:15 a.m.? Are you early? It's dark outside. Are you there early? Do you come to minyan? Are you early? Did you show up at the Shiva minyan? They're struggling to get a minyan. Boker. Let's see in the morning. Let's see how righteous you are. I posted this in our Kol HaBoker group. Boker. You come to the Kol HaBoker, you wake up early, you walk in the dark, it's pitch black out, it's the middle of the night, to be there at 6:15 a.m., that's Yirah Shamayim. That's drive, that's motive, that's motivation. That's Yirah Shamayim. Boker. That's what the Rachmastrisker writes. The Lavos Eish, back to Rav Druck, also has a comment. Our last Rav Druck on the day. He says, Boker. What's this answer? In the morning. So he says, the same way Hashem made boundaries of night and day. So a person who says, I love the night. I just want to sleep a little bit more. So let's stretch the night into the day. Make the sun not rise. Push it off a little bit. Reprogram the sun. Delay it a little bit. Or the opposite. A person who says, I have so much to accomplish and achieve. So much I want to do. Like Yehoshua, Shemesh Begimon Dome. We're fighting this war. We need sunlight. Let the sun stay up just a little bit longer. So where do you program that? You can't. We all surrender and know that the sun and the moon, light and dark, it's out of our control. It's separate, it's apart, it's distinct. There are boundaries. You can't cancel, you can't nullify, you can't reprogram, you can't control. Says Rav Druck that what Moshe was telling Korach is as separate and apart and distinct and different as the sun and the moon, the night and day, is you and Aaron. We each have our own place, we each have our own rule. We each have our own role. There are gvulos. There are boundaries. Can you mix heaven and earth? No. Hashem made Havdalah in this world. You, Korach, are trying to make a tarovis and irbuvia. Irbuvia, you're trying to create chaos by a mixture. You're trying to erase boundaries and borders and definitions. And you know what happens? In a society, in a world that looks to erase boundaries and borders and definitions, you have chaos, you have anarchy, you have corruption, you have moral depravity. Erev avoker, vayavdel elokim bein ha'or uvein ha'choshech. We live in a world of Havdalah. Havdalah means differences and distinctions. We say in Havdalah every Saturday night, every Motzei Shabbos, Kodesh Baruch Hu separated ben or l'choshech, ben Yisrael la'amim, ben Yom HaShvi l'sheish Masa. We have Havdalah. And in Shmona Esrei on Motzei Shabbos, which bracha do we insert Havdalah into? Atachan Antanu. Which bracha? Das. The bracha of knowledge, of thinking, of rationality. Why do we insert it there? Because the Gemara Megillah tells us. Because if you don't have Havdalah, Das, Havdalah Minayin, you need the evidence that you know how to think is that you know how to create distinctions. You know the differences. You have definitions. You have boundaries. You have borders. You know the differences. Boker, v'yoda Hashem as asher lo, kvar u'mesukan v'asher yivchar bo yakriv elav. As different as day and night, or as different as you and Aaron. We have differences. There's such a thing as a Kohen, a Levi, and Yisrael. It's not fair to me. It's not fair to me. Everybody knows the horrific, terrible, classic joke, but the person who comes to the rabbi, I want to pay you to become a Kohen. Right? You know this terrible joke. How much? I can't. Of course not. This? Okay, fine. Why do you want to be a Kohen? My father was a Kohen. My grandfather was a Kohen. Terrible. Don't laugh. It doesn't deserve your laughter. It doesn't deserve it. So, no matter how badly I might want to be a Kohen, I'm a Yisrael. I'll never be a Kohen. I can't duchen. I can't get the first Aliyah. I'll never be a Kohen. I won't serve when the third Beis HaMikdash will be built. I'm not a Kohen. I accept it. I respect it. I understand it. I'm a role player. I have my role. I want to be a woman. I want to know what it's like to carry a living baby inside me. Everyone laughs, especially my wife and children, when I say this. I say, I want to know. I'm curious. Can't imagine to be able to conceive life, to carry gestation of life, to deliver, to feed and nurture and sustain that closeness. I want to know. Nothing I can do. I accept. I understand. It's not my role. A woman, I want to be a man. There are roles. We have definitions. We have boundaries. We have borders. We have definitions. We have differences. We have Havdalah, and that's Das. You want a society that's based on Das? It has to have boundaries and borders and definitions, and it has to have Havdalah. Between a Kohen, a Levi, a Yisrael, a man, a woman, a Jew, a non-Jew, light, dark, day, night. And when we try to erase it and blur it and pretend it's not there, we have chaos and moral corruption and depravity, and we have problems. And that's what Moshe was responding. Boker, in the morning, and you'll know you're not the man Aaron is. What was he saying in the morning? Why wait till the morning? What he was saying is, as different as the morning is from night, as much as you can't control it, as separate as those categories are, is as different than you are from my brother Aaron. Know your place. Be makar es makomo. Know your place. Accept your place. Lean into your place. Be proud of your place and embrace the Havdalah, the differences that we have. The differences that we have. Perek Tezayim Pasuk Tes Vav. Turning the page. Vayichal Moshe Ma'od Vayomar Lashem Atefen Al Minchasam. Now Moshe does something a little bit peculiar. He turns to Hashem and he davens. Hashem, I beg of you, because Hashem makes this test right. They each offer their sacrifice, whichever Hashem chooses, that's going to be the leader. So Moshe says, I'm all in for this test. But now Moshe davens. Al tefin el min chasam. Whatever you do, Hashem, don't accept their sacrifice. Don't accept their prayers. To which I ask a very simple question. Korach and his compatriots, they're wicked, they're nefarious, they have evil motivation, they have destructive intent. So why does Moshe have to daven that Hashem not accept their prayer? Isn't it obvious? Shouldn't Moshe be able to sit back and say, I got this one in the bank. This one's a definite winner. Korach's him, I'm me, Aaron's him. I could sit back and mail this one in. I don't have to daven. Of course Hashem's not going to accept it. Listen to this insight of the Alter of Kelm. Says the Alter of Kelm, you see something unbelievably important. Listen carefully, this is so critical for our time, a Parsha perspective for today. Says the Alter of Kelm, we see from here the power of a heartfelt and authentic prayer. It's true their motive was corrupt and their goals were destructive, but they turned to Hashem and they prayed from the bottom of their hearts. They ask God to intervene on their behalf. And when a prayer is genuine, and when a prayer is authentic, when a prayer is sincere, even if it's in the wrong direction, and even if it's for the wrong things, Hashem can hear it. It can be effective. And Moshe understood the power of heartfelt prayer, even if it's misguided, even if it's misdirected, even if it's for the wrong thing. Heartfelt, sincere, authentic prayers, yearning and turning to Hashem in the core of our being, the power to be heard and listened to, so much so, they have to be offset, they have to be negated by Moshe's own heartfelt prayer. And the author of Kelm brings another example. On Yom Kippur, Kohen Gadol spent the day immersed in advocacy for the Jewish people, and he earns atonement for himself, his family, and the people. In the conclusion of the holiest day of the year, Kohen Gadol is leaving the holiest place of the year, the Kodesh HaKodashim, and he offers a little short prayer. The Gemara in Yuma, Nun Gimel, tells us about this prayer, and included in it is, Yehi ratzon milfanecha, may it be your will, God, al tifne l'tfilas ovrei drachim. Don't listen to the prayers of the travelers, of those who are going home. Why would you ask God not to listen to the prayers of the travelers? It's very simple. Those who are going home, today when we travel, fair comfort, could always get upgraded more, but even the person who's on the worst seat, the worst spot, is still traveling more comfortably than we did throughout history. So today it's relatively safe. We're pretty confident we'll be okay. But through history, a lot could go wrong. If you're traveling your horse and buggy, you're traveling in your entourage, and there's rain, there's mudslide, you're finished. It's over. There's animals that attack, there are bandits and robbers, so much can go wrong. So they would pray, they're going home from the holidays, Hashem, don't make it rain, we want to get home safely. But Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, need rain. So the Kohen Gadol had to daven, don't listen to their prayers, let the rain fall to sustain all the Jews in Israel. So that's the author of Kelm. If the right thing is that the Jews of Israel deserve rain, and they outweigh and outnumber by far those who are traveling home, why would God listen to the prayers of those traveling home? Why do you even have to pray? The Kohen Gadol on the holiest day, leaving the holiest place, has to include a Yehi ratzon, don't listen? Says the author of Kelm, yes. You know why? Because there's no more heartfelt prayer than those travelers going home. It's life or death for them. They mean it. It's not like our tfilos haderech, that we mumble while we eat the blue chips, while we're still listening and watching, while we're still... No. Their tfilos haderech, they meant, came from the essence, the bottom of their being. It was sincere, so it soared through the heavens. The Kohen Gadol had to offset it. Here's another example. Someone killed by accident goes to an Ir Miklat. And the Kohen Gadol, they stay in the Ir Miklat until the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, dies. They sit in the city of refuge. The Mishnah in Mako says that the mother of the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, would come and bake cookies for them and bring gifts to the inmates in the Ir Miklat in the city of refuge. Why? That they shouldn't daven, let the Kohen Gadol drop dead already so we can go home. So she would have to do this. So again, you say, the Kohen Gadol is righteous and wonderful. He's the Kohen Gadol. You really have to offset and negate. You really have to confront the prayers of these inmates in the Ir Miklat. The answer is yeah. Because when someone's in an Ir Miklat, when someone's incarcerated and they want to go free, that's a sincere prayer. You better watch out. You got to do something to balance out the sincerity of that prayer. I'll give you one more example. The author doesn't quote this. One more example. Gemara in Moed Katan says, are you allowed to get engaged on Chol HaMoed? Ein ma'arvin simcha b'simcha. You're not allowed to mix happy occasions. So can someone get engaged on Chol HaMoed? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. Why? Concludes the Gemara, because you better lock that up before someone else comes in. Shema yikad menu acher. You got to lock up that girl. You got to put a ring on that finger. You got to get engaged. Why? Because someone else is going to swoop in and take her out from under you. So you can get engaged even on Chol HaMoed. So wonders the Gemara, I don't understand. What happened? What happened to the idea of a basher? Bas kol, the heavenly voice goes out and says, Bas ploni the ploni. I thought everyone has a basher. So someone else can't swoop in and steal who's meant for me. So wait till after Yom Tov, wait till after Chol HaMoed. Why could you get engaged on Chol HaMoed? What do you mean, Shema yikad menu acher, someone else can swoop in? Says the Gemara, Shema yikad menu acher, birachamim. You're right. We have a concept of Basher. But you know what can even override Basher? Someone's heartfelt tefillos. So that suitor, that guy, sees that girl, sees that young woman and says, oh, I want to be married to her. I'm going to daven from the bottom of my heart, from the essence of my being. And that heartfelt, sincere prayer can even override the concept of Basher. So we say every day in davening, Karav Hashem l'chol karav l'chol asher yikru be'emes. Hashem answers, but who does he answer? L'chol asher yikra'uhu be'emes. To those who call out to him sincerely, authentically, enthusiastically, passionately, with every ounce of their being. Every ounce of their being. So Moshe realizes he has to daven, because Korach and his side, they're davening hard. So even though they have evil and wicked plans, but because of the sincerity of their prayers, I've got to negate it. I've got to balance it out. I've got to offset it with my own prayers. Al teifin al minchasam. So he turns to Hashem and he says, don't accept their korban, don't accept their mincha. Chevra, our enemies, the other side, they're on their hands and knees 5 times a day on a mat, praying from the essence of their being for our destruction. They are praying from the river to the sea. Believe me, they're praying sincerely. We have to offset it, negate it. Our prayers can't grow fatigued or tired or grow old. They have to be as sincere as they ever were. Now, they asked to follow in the Yom Kippur War. During the Yom Kippur War, following the Kippur year, the Ger Rebbe was asked, what do you say about the current situation? So the Ger Rebbe said, what do I say about the current situation? I say Tehillim. That's what I say. We're so caught up. What do you say? How will this end? What's next? Who's to blame? What do you say about the matzav? Say Tehillim. That's what you should say about the matzav. Say Tehillim. Say Tehillim. L'chol asher yikra'uhu be'emes. You got to daven from the essence and the bottom of our being. Moshe did to correspond with Korach. We have to correspond with the people who seek our demise. In that spirit, everybody's invited to stay to complete all of Sefer Tehillim. You should hear Besoros Tovos, Yeshuos, V'nechamos.